Where's it ending again? Hey everyone, I am Kat from Kat's Creations, and today we're going to do a little something different. So I've had the joy of having my brother with us for a while, and so many people in my private group have asked me, how come you haven't done a photography class with your brother, who is a published and well-known photographer? So I asked him, begged him, pleaded. No, I did not pay him for his time, but asked him if he wouldn't mind taking a little bit of his time, because right now he's in transition for doing a couple things right now, and just basically explain some basics for photography like basics for people just starting out with their photos, and some do's and don'ts. You know, like if you're starting in the version that we do, you know, we're using iPhone. So I want to encourage you, you don't have to go out and buy thousands of dollars worth of photography equipment, because he understands where we come from and where we are limited. So he's going to kind of walk you through some things that we can do to kind of make your photos stand out a little bit better than the competition. So I want to welcome my younger brother. This is Michael Malik.
Hey everybody. She didn't have to beg too much or plead to try and get me here. As you can tell, my sister's really great, so I want to be there also to support her as she's supported me for most of my life. So anything that she needs from me and that it's helpful to the group, more than happy to actually jump in here. So
okay. And we kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday, and we were like really brainstorming a lot of great ideas, and I was like, you know what, this is a really good lead-in to, you know, maybe something bigger in the future. So can you tell us a little bit about your background so that you can speak from that years of experience?
Sure. And Kathy, I know, has shared the importance of photography and product placement. And as a photographer, my product placement is my models and doing 1940s Hollywood glamour and cheesecake pinups. So what we had discussed was the importance of, you know, taking a really good photo, and do you need a really expensive camera, or do you need expensive lighting gear? And me being an older guy, I also understand that there's a lot of apps out there, and it gets kind of confusing for us older people, is do we need all of that stuff? So really the reason for this class was to be able to break some of the stuff down really and simplify it so that you didn't necessarily have to get all of those apps and photography gear and lighting, but be able to take your photography and product placement, which I know very much about, to like the next level. Because if there's 75 people making wreaths, what is it that's going to distinguish you and separate you from the pack of other wreath makers? Clearly the quality of a wreath and your ability to make something, you know, awesome looking, but you now have to convey that to somebody that is actually possibly interested in buying it. And I went through that early on in my photography. As I was taking pictures, one of the guys actually told me, how come you don't have any of these pictures like hanging in your house? And I said, well, you know, it's just kind of not my thing. And that's what really kind of drove me to, okay, I need to do something that is of my heart and something I'm passionate about. Because if I'm not interested in hanging a wreath like this, if I made it, and I'm mainly making it for somebody else to hopefully buy, then I think the art is lost. So for me, when I'm taking pictures of stuff and I'm displaying them for people to purchase the photography, I have to separate myself from the rest of the herd of photographers, because anybody that actually has an iPhone now is a photographer. So I'm competing with these guys that are just taking photos, you know, randomly and posting them and, you know, using these really quick apps. And now my photography is being challenged by that. So with this little snapshot that Kathy wanted to do, I wanted to kind of express some passions of mine and be able to also break it down to where you don't have to have all of that stuff. I think if you just use some common principles and apply those to your photos, you can start to climb up the ladder of providing a very higher quality of image Because if everybody is just taking pictures of a wreath on a counter like this, and that's it, and there's one picture, that's not really enticing me as a potential consumer to buy that. Me and Kathy spoke about this yesterday, and I said, perhaps going on a dating site, so I'll apply some of the principles that are in our daily lives, not necessarily product, but things that make you, might make you go, okay. So if you're on a dating site and there was only 2 pictures of a guy or a woman that you were interested in dating,
what's that?
Would you be what?
I was just, Steve's giving me like weird faces. I'm like, are we okay? Are you recording?
Are we still live? Should I slow down?
What's that? Nothing,
we're good. It just, the video showed clear on this end, but on my phone, it showed blurry.
Oh, I'll find it.
It was just a matter of,
Are these 2 guys great as a team? I just have to say, I've been here for a little while and I've watched, their shows that they do. They're very supportive of one another, and it's just awesome to actually watch that from the sidelines. She's a great instructor, so truly a blessing. So.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so I'm sorry I interrupted you and totally took you off that train of thought. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend like a little bit of time just discussing some tips and tricks that you guys can implement, and then we'll save like questions for the very end. But you can go ahead and, if you want, you can go ahead and start listing whatever questions you might have for Mike, but I guess you can't ask a question until you know what we are and aren't covering.
Yeah, and I think where we stopped when Steve kind of jumped in there was like the dating site principle, is I was applying certain things that you would normally do on your own and then equate them to what it is as far as your business is concerned. So if you're on a dating site and there was only 2 pictures, but then there's other people that you're actually looking at their profiles, and there's like 8 and 10 and 15. And those pictures are really clear, and they're almost questioning whether or not they're semi-professional photographs. Is that not more enticing to maybe explore a little bit more and see if you can get to know this person a little bit more, as opposed to 2-3 photos and maybe they're just the standard candid, selfies, and they're blurry and they may be from far away? These are things that, even in my craft, that you have to actually take into consideration, excuse me, because I actually do some product placement with some of the stuff that I do with calendars and with Lionel train cars. I have to take those pictures and post those. And here's another principle that you may actually try and, apply as it's our daily thing. If you go on Amazon and you're looking at a product and there's like 1 photo of it, and it looks like there may be 2 or 3 photos, but then when you go in it, it's like just a description, and then maybe it's the same picture of that, and it's like really far away. But then you kind of feel less satisfied, like you didn't get taken through the whole product of, the top view, the side view, even showing the back on how something may have a special hanger is that much more intriguing for somebody to actually consider buying that, as opposed to, and we started the conversation of separating yourself from the pack. What can you do that doesn't really cost you any money that can get your potential products to sell? And I feel that if you have 7 boxes to be able to put photos in, you should use all 7, because as you're scrolling through photos as a consumer, and I buy lots of stuff on Amazon, the things that turn me away is if I can't see some detail of the product. I can't see how close this flower is, what detail. When it comes to like costumes that I end up purchasing, the ones that I truly end up purchasing, and I don't even sometimes, within a manner of speaking, care too much about how the price is, I feel like I'm getting a lot more for the product because the person that displayed it took me into it and they shared with me their craft. They got me really close to the flower. I could see what material they possibly used. I could see the finite detail and everything. I could see different angles of the wreath. And the biggest thing too is put it in an environment that it belongs in. Like if somebody took a picture of my calendar sitting on the carpet, just a top shot, it's not very intriguing. You want to put it in its natural environment, hang it on the wall and have it be by some pictures, or put it in a garage, where there's an airplane in the background. That kind of tells the story, and it puts it in a place that is welcoming for the possible consumer to be sucked into the pictures and be drawn into it, and also entice them to want to buy it. So that's
Catherine Allman said, I'm sure lighting is a big issue with taking pictures.
It is, but it isn't. So as we kind of go through this, I will definitely show you that, like my sister has a couple of lights up here. Taking just a raw shot with no lighting puts you in a single dimension, okay? So if your husband or if your spouse or your daughter or a friend can hold a light up to the wreath, like in an environment like this, I think it's perfect the way that my sister displays this, because this is the natural place for this to be. If I was going to purchase it, this makes me feel like, okay, this is where it goes. It goes on a door, and then I can mentally start picturing this on my front door, and that makes me want to buy it, as opposed to if it's leaning up against a cabinet. And I'm not knocking anybody for doing that. I'm just, she asked me to come here to give perspective and take away with what you want and what you feel may apply to what your current situation is. But something like this definitely tells the story and invites the person in. As the question was about lighting, like I said, you can have somebody, or you can even hold a lamp here with an iPhone.
We were talking about that yesterday.
And give it a dimension. You can open up a window and put something like this if you have that ability to be able to do that. Kathy has a great prop here. She can actually roll it around. So by opening up this back window and adding some natural light to it, it does give it dimension. So the amount of lights that you put on it will definitely make that image pop. But the things that I showed Kathy yesterday, which she didn't even know, on the iPhone, is you can actually change your contrasts. So let me pop in here real quick.
Can you zoom in a little bit on like lights, if it's possible?
Yeah.
So I don't know who the individual was that asked about lighting, and it's a great question because Catherine. So my sister has a couple of accent lights here that you can't actually see. She's got a couple of can lights here, and then she has some of these lights here. So she's got like 3 different lights that are popping on this thing. So just by me showing the natural what I would be taking a picture of, doesn't look bad here. Now you want to get more into professional lighting. Like my sister actually has a ring light here, and you can go ahead and turn that on, sis. Okay. So now that gives it some shadow effect, 3-dimensional, and she just bought this ring light, and it's all about like playing with lighting, okay, and moving the lights around and seeing what looks best to your eye, okay. And go ahead and turn that off real quick. So this is something my sister didn't know, but just by clicking here, it gives you a sun icon. And that's a contrast level. So all I'm doing is just holding my finger to the screen, and I'm moving up and down. And I'm setting it for what my eye actually sees. This is some aspect of manual adjustments on this. So if we were to take this picture, I may want a little bit more brighter contrast, and that's it. And then I would just go ahead and take the picture. And then I can actually take this into the edit portion of iPhone. I haven't used an app. This is everything that the iPhone comes out with. And I can adjust the color contrast. Now, I don't want to get too over the top when it comes to adjusting color, because I want to give the person exactly what they're seeing. So just as me being a model photographer, I wouldn't want to make her look so different that it's not a true representation of her. So there's a fine line that you want to kind of play in. Add a little bit of color, because if I was to saturate this thing with light, it may be a little bit more poppier. And that's generally how it would, how it's going to look. So.
But we were talking about that too, that you don't want to over edit or over adjust things to where your product now is way different than what a customer is going to get when they open the box.
Yeah.
So there's a fine line that you have to do between some small adjustments versus people who go way crazy and maybe brighten that up and really add some vivid, depth to the reds and the blues, and then it starts looking artificial.
So I wouldn't want to take a model and add blue eyes to her and she has brown eyes, and I don't know, maybe shave off like 15 pounds off of her. And then it just becomes not a true representation, and that's not the type of photography that I did. So once again, Kathy's correct. It's a fine line that you get. You want enhancements that'll kind of pop it, but you don't want to falsify it so that if somebody bought it and received it, they'd be like, this is totally not like what they advertised. So
and we see that a lot. Like when people, or they have a purchase, whether it's through Etsy or through their website, and then they get the customer review and they're like, this looked nothing like the picture that I purchased it from. And so in that sense of the word, it's already setting the customer up for a different expectation than what they got, and that's not what we want to do.
right.
And Myrna had asked what type of iPhone. I'm not sure how far it goes back as far as being able to tap the camera.
Most of them do it.
Most of them do it. I think from the 7 on do it.
Yeah, because I have an 8S or 8 Plus, and we were doing that. You have what?
Mine's the 11 Max Pro, whatever the latest. I think I'm down one. I think the 12 Max is out now, so I have the one just before.
And then Lydia Dykes asked, is it better to take pictures with natural light or add lights?
So it really depends. And this is where it starts to get technical, right? So as a photographer, if you have a north-facing window, that's the most natural light that you can get. And then it starts getting into like even more crazy stuff. So your best light to hit is first thing in the morning from depends on when the sun comes up in your state, between like 7 and 10 o'clock. Anything after that becomes harsh light. So that's where a natural light photographer understands what times and dimensions of the day, and it'll also fall off towards the end of the evening. So as you get to 4, 5, and 6, as you notice that the sunlight becomes more golden, those are known as the golden hours as a natural light photographer for taking stuff outside. As it goes between 10, 11, 12, 1, and 2, that's harsh light. The sun is at its direct apex, and the lighting saturation is just horrible. That's why you generally don't take pictures of people outside in those conditions.
Right.
Because I am a lighting photographer, I use that to my advantage. I rotate that completely around, and I can take photos using my lighting and allow the sun to use its natural accent from behind. So
one of the things that we had talked about was the reasons why products don't sell, the reason why things are not get favorited or things are not being viewed is like Mike says, everybody can make this wreath. You can have 400 people all make the exact same wreath. And so there's going to be a couple things that are going to set yours apart from everything else. One of them is the description, which we've already kind of covered a little bit. We do more in depth in the private group class and talk about descriptions, SEOs or keywords, which are search engine optimization, which are things people are typing in search bars, whether it's in Etsy, Google, Shopify, or whatever, to try to find your item. The other thing that sets you apart is your photos. So you cannot, and we're always saying, you can never get a second chance to make a good first impression. And so our pictures have to be, hand in hand with our descriptions and everything else. Because like Mike says, you have to be looking at your competition and say, how can I make my wreath that looks exactly like her wreath look much better? And it's the pictures you take, right?
Yeah, it's spending the time, and Kathy touches on some really great points. And I try and equate, because I'm not a wreath maker, quite obviously, but I try and equate things that we do on a daily basis that you guys can empathize with and understand. If you were buying a wreath and it said 12-inch round circle, flowers and bow, and there was 2 pictures there, and you were interested in buying it, would you buy that one, or would you buy the one that says, 18-inch wreath, framing, succulent-looking flowers, and so the descriptions of the product And the enhancement of a photo is like where I started this, is how do you separate yourself from the pack of 80 other people doing the same thing? And I have to do that as a photographer. So how I have established and separated myself from the pack of people is I always go to the next level. I'm always pushing the bar. So it's getting those products for, the costume, for the extravagant photo shoot, or scheduling a really high-end venue for a photo, getting a $5 million plane and posing a model on the wing of the plane. That's what's known as image value. And what image value breaks down to is, if I see your photo like that, I think, I really like that photo. What can I do to emulate that? Or what can I do to make a photo exactly like that? Now, if you're looking at mine and you're a photographer and you're going, God, he shot at the Beverly Hills hotel with this 40s, model. I'd have to rent the room just like he did. So that's what builds the photo as being a catalyst for intrigue and allure for somebody to want to buy your product. The old adage is perfect. Here in this type of scenario, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So the more detail that you can give on a picture for product, I guarantee it will probably have more ability to sell than just a single shot sitting on a carpet or sitting on a sidewall and trying to, sell it. Most of the stuff that I end up purchasing on eBay for World War II props, the people that I buy from, I have a sense when I'm looking at their photos that they took the time, they put a little bit of thought behind, where am I going to shoot this? Is there enough natural light coming in, or is it a dark shot and is it all blurry? Most of the props that I end up getting, there's probably anywhere from 10 to 12 photos of it. They take me through the product, they take me through the closeness, they take me through the label, they take me through the front, the back, then they give me a full description size, front and back, for photos. And so I know that that's the product I want to buy. The other thing, sis, is as I was driving home, I thought, if you guys are in Target and Walmart and you grab a box of a product and there's a picture on the front and the back and there's nothing on the side or the top, but then there's another one right next to it of whatever widget it is, and this one is completely detailed and has, thought and, a little advertisement, this is the latest widget, would you be more inclined as a consumer, because we're all consumers, we consume stuff every single day, would you be more inclined to buy this than that? And that's what I want people to start thinking as they're taking their product and their business. They want to go to that next level to separate themselves from the rest of the pack. And this is not costing you anything other than just a little bit of time and creative thought to actually put a little bit more effort into selling your product.
And I think we talked about that yesterday, that, looking at where we are, beginning, like if we're at the beginning stages and we're starting to turn this into, some of us are trying to figure out, do we have enough to actually turn this into a business for you to, if that's what your goal is, part-time, full-time business. And we talked about, the money, like you were saying, let's say, for example, you were making $100,000 a month. You were saying something to the effect of, would you spend more money? Like, how would you get this particular look? And I was like, oh, we'd hire a photographer, we would do this, we do that. And he's like, okay, but those concepts still remain. So, the lighting, you've got to really put some focus, like Mike says, even if you don't have lighting, you don't have overhead lighting or whatever. It's a matter of and we've done this before. We've taken our living room light, pulled off the light shade, I'm here with my camera and Steve's holding two lights like this, because that's where we begin. But what we're trying to do is get to that point where we have a great looking product and people are looking at that going, wow, they must have really went out of their way to really take that picture.
Yeah, and see, the concept too with online purchasing is, I don't know if I bought your wreath, whether or not you're a business or you're just a mom that enjoys making wreaths. I'm coming to your staging for the first time. You could be a multi-million-dollar business. I would never know. So that is one of the principles too, that somebody's not ever going to know. So if they're not going to know that you're a big business, or this is just a hobby and you like selling these, as a side, line, then just by applying a little bit more effort and energy to really place, your product and make it look desirable. Like, here's another example. When you go order food, McDonald's is a horrible choice, but I'm saying, okay, so when you look up at the menu, they spent time, and yes, I get it. They're professional photographers, and their pictures look great, and the French fries look awesome. But if it was somebody just taking 1 or 2 photos of it, would you order that?
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't. You'd be like, hey, I'm out of here. I'm going to go to Del Taco, right?
Yeah.
So
I think some of the things that we had talked about is like, okay, so what can they do if you're just starting off? What are some things that you would say, you want to start with?
So the first things that I would start with is I would start to identify, where is it that you currently reside and where do you want to go? Because you have to have a roadmap. You have to have a plan of what it is that you want to do. I feel it to be extremely important when it comes to taking extremely good pictures of your product. I get the fact that you don't have a professional photographer, but iPhone and Android actually have some great options now when it comes to their phones. And it's not like you're going to print these out. I mean, that's really the difference when it comes to professional photography, professional images from a professional camera. It's the print quality that really is going to matter. But you can actually sit and take some really good pictures. Mm-hmm. You can, if you want, because there's certain levels of people that I understand. Even in my own photography group, I noticed that I had some photographers that had their own lights. I had some photographers that maybe had one. So there's going to be this whole range of different people that are going to have different abilities and wants, or budget is going to be constraining. So I'm going to give this to you guys at the cheapest level. Is most people have an iPhone or some type of smartphone, and it has a camera. The very first thing that you can do is take your product and put it in the environment that it was made for. That's first and foremost that I'd be doing, because it invites that person and they start thinking in their mind, oh, that's how it's going to look on my door, or that's how it's going to look on the inside. If you have stuff, like I said, that is in the garage or it's on a fence or something like that, it's not the same exact place for it. So you're probably, if you have a picture like that and then somebody has it on a door, I'm probably steering more towards the door than the fence, because the fence also isn't giving me a size understanding. What's it going to look like on the door? Doors are pretty standard. Is it going to take up the whole section of the door, or is this a smaller wreath for a fence? I'm not sure. What is this person trying to tell me? So these would be the things that first and foremost I would identify. Okay, I got to put the wreath on a door, or I know Kathy has some really great options. You can get some of these doors relatively cheap. I know if you don't have those options, you can look about the house and find a intriguing, alluring door that this would go on. If it's in a darker area of the house, you're probably going to have to bring in a couple of lights. And most of us have stand-up lights. I know my sister has one right here. I would bring that in. Once again, I haven't spent any money here. It's just time. And most people, where their critical mistake is, I don't have the time. Here, I'm going to take that picture. I'm going to post it. See ya. Hope it sells. Why isn't it selling? But whenever I sat and got creative and said, man, from a purchasing perspective, would I buy that? Probably not. So I feel like I was at fault for not selling my own product, my own Zippo lighters, because I wasn't putting it in an environment that invites the people into wanting to purchase it. So.
Yeah. And I think we had talked about, like, I mean, you guys can get the doors at Lowe's. I think we paid like $43, something like that.
Even 60, yeah, it was. I mean, it wasn't that expensive.
But you could go to yard sales. You can go to Facebook Marketplace. You can go to Craigslist, and people are selling all kinds of stuff, like really nice doors. And yeah, they might need a little fixing up, but you know, if you take something like that, like we just bought this, it came white, and then we did white on one side, and I'll show you, because this is great for darker wreaths. And then of course this is a bad example of what to show, sorry. And then, oop, I got it.
You got it?
Yeah. And then, sorry, we did black on the other side, so that if you're doing a lighter wreath, like obviously this is not a good example, but if we were to take this one off, and let me add this on. So there's the thing about, like you were saying, looking at just simple things that you can do. So taking this wreath, putting it on a dark door with this, the darker font makes the wreath pop more. Where if we took it, can we flip the door around?
Sure.
Okay. So these are simple things. Which way are we going? We'll go this way.
Okay.
Feel like we're doing a magic show.
No, I feel like I'm on tool time or something.
What's behind door number 2?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let me take this one off.
Sure.
Look at that one. Can you set it over there, Mike?
Sure.
Okay. So look at what happens when we put it on just a regular white door. So just something as simple as that, you saw the change.
Now it looks okay and it's acceptable,
Right.
but it's blending in more with the door than popping. And I did talk to Kathy yesterday, and you may not have a door, you know, at your house that looks great, but you may have a friend that's across the street and they have a beautiful front door and a beautiful entrance, and you may be able to take some pictures there.
Exactly.
So these are just ideas. Once again, we're still not spending any money at this point.
Yeah.
And I think worst case scenario, you spent $60 here that you guys said, which is not a bad investment for, and especially the way that Kathy and Steve have this, they have a dark and a light, and based on whatever color wreath that you're making, you'd be able to actually flip it around. So,
So that it totally changes the value and what you see. Like, it really popped off the black door. So if somebody had a black door, they're like, oh my God, that would look great on my, you know, front door. But I don't have a dark door, you know, let's put it on, you know, a light door, that kind of thing. So just taking advantage of just something as simple as the door came white. You know, we added a doorknob so it looks like a true door. It's on wheels, so when we're done with this, it just gets pushed over to the side. It's perfect for photos any time of the day. So if we're, you know, finishing this up at 9 o'clock at night, I need to get the pictures up, or somebody was interested and they want photos, you know, you've got to be in a position to where you can take the photos in order to get that posted, hopefully get it sold. And it's just like Mike said, it's taking the time and not just going, wow, I need to get this up, zip, 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 post, 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 it's done. And then we were talking, you know, what the perception is on Etsy. So like people who have an Etsy shop or people who have their own website, it's not just the onesie choosy photos. And I think in our private group, we did that when we were looking at a new bow maker that has just launched. And so people were like, have you heard of this? I was like, no, I haven't heard of that. We pulled it up, and all of the photos of this bow maker were like the box, the back of the box, the instructions of how to make it on the box, a slight picture in between the clear plastic of what it kind of looked like, but there was no way of knowing for sure what it was that you were actually purchasing. You kind of got like a, I think it looks like this, you know, and then like Mike was like, well, how did that make you feel? Did you want to run right out and buy it? I was like, no, I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how I would use it. I don't know how it functions. So that's the kind of thing that I think we're trying to encourage you guys to do is you don't have to go out and spend $4,000 on a 35 millimeter, you know, Canon with a super nice lens and buy an entire light studio and light boxes and this. those are things that you're going to work up to eventually, because you start to see there's a value in that. Whether you purchase I don't know what our set of lights were.
Our LED umbrellas were literally $39, I believe.
For like the set.
For the set. It came with three umbrellas, 3 stands, 3 lights.
Yep. So
really helps,
this is what we were saying is you can build up to certain things, but it's always going to be about staging. So if we're selling a wreath, it needs to be on a door. Or if you're doing something that...
well, it could be on a door, it could be in an RV, it could be on a boat. You just want to apply it to where somebody would be able to use it, as opposed to sitting on a couch or, like I said, on the floor. You want to put it in its natural habitat. I mean, like, if you can.
If you can,
right? And the other thing, and I'll dovetail off of something that you just talked about, the expensive photography and the camera and the lighting and stuff like that. Another thing to think about is if you were a successful business and you could just wave a magic wand, what would you envision your advertising photos of your product to look like?
Yeah, like I think we talked about Joanna Gaines, the Magnolia stuff. If you've looked at any of her stuff on her social media posts, whether it's her Facebook page, whether it's her Instagram photo, and she's got that gorgeous magnolia wreath, it's not just generic wreath on a front door. It's got some staging behind it. She might have put it on her front door and she's got like little potted plants and stuff like that. And it creates that warm and inviting atmosphere. And even though I may not have...
It creates the homey atmosphere
right.
that you want it at your home.
So even though I don't, when we're buying stuff as women, sometimes we're buying the whole image, even though all we're doing is the wreath. Because we're like, I've got the wreath. I know I've got some pots and some stuff like that. And I have some of these plants that I can kind of set that up. And oh my God, that looks great. We're kind of giving them the whole idea behind just a wreath.
And gals, we're trying to keep the questions at the very end that we'll answer. There's a couple of gals who asked some questions quite a while ago. So
yeah,
try to hold all your questions till the very end, and then we'll do some questions and answers.
And we'll go back through them and make sure that we hit them all. So,
and me as a photographer, the most important thing, and like I said, I have my own photography class, and the skill levels and ranges and budgetary, especially now with COVID and everything that hit, it's very impactful. So I empathize and I get the understanding, like, oh my gosh, do I have to buy that app? Do I have to get the next latest iPhone? No. I'm around a lot of photographers that have bought the next best Canon and the next best lenses. And my principle and thought is, hey, God bless me with this camera. And so I'm going to use every conceivable option I can and use it and get it to a point of outgrowing the options that now I need to go explore other things, as opposed to, oh, somebody told me about this app or somebody told me about this new camera or new lens. I'm not about that. I'm about more sticking, rooted, grounded, and just pushing the boundaries of what I have at my disposal without spending any money.
Getting the most out of your iPhone. Getting
Absolutely.
the most out of your Android.
Which I think it's a great point, and something I never thought about before is, and I think that's what we always look for.
So your brother taught you something?
A lot. A lot. He's taught me a lot, especially about pictures. So I think it's just starting small and then looking for those little improvements that you can make. Like, experiment with taking, pictures of, the wreath on your front door at different times of the day and try to figure out for you, what is the best time, and it's always going to be based on seasons too, because the sun changes directions as the seasons occur. But rainy, cloudy days, you were saying, are perfect because there's no real, it's like a diffused light. So it's very natural. Yep. It looks very nice on a photo.
But I have to tell you, there's nothing like a early morning photo if you have a north-facing door. And I know probably your fan base is going, how do I know if it's a north-facing door? Well, iPhone actually has a compass on there as well, so you can activate the compass and you can point around your house and find true north and see if you have a window on that side. And that will tell you whether or not your door is north facing it for those that don't know the directions.
Yeah, we actually do have a north facing door.
They do.
And the best pictures for Kat is in the summertime, because after her lives, when she finishes a wreath, she still has time to take it off the door that you're seeing, put it on the front door, and that's the best hours.
That golden hour. Yeah.
6, 7 o'clock, that's that golden hour where she takes her photos at.
Yep.
But there's times where I'll finish a design and I need to get that photo because I'm all about, once you've made it, there's nothing like take the photo, get it listed, because it can't sell if you're like, storing it to where you have time to take the photo. And we've done some crazy stuff. Because like if you're doing a sign like this that's got a reflective surface, and we're out there at like 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon trying to take that photo, it doesn't matter what I try to do. There's a glare. If I'm standing here, I might like get the perfect picture if I stand off to the side, but anywhere else I'm trying to take a picture, trying to get that front angle, it's like boom, glare. You can see the reflection from, the lighting that's happening behind me. And it's crazy because I have to get a blanket, and I take a blanket and I sling it over our outside security gate. And then I kind of like hold it like this. So it's like hung over here to kind of create that blocking to get rid of the stupid glare.
That's some effort, I have to say. I mean, I've seen her and she's like
what the
this,
hell
trying
is
to
she
get the
doing?
shot. And as her brother, I haven't taken any of her photos. So just so you know, she has a professional photographer brother, but yeah, that's all Kathy, and I applaud her effort to actually put her product in the natural placement where me as a consumer, if I'm interested in a wreath or, I have a tiny home or something and she made a tiny wreath and it's on a door or a ship or a yacht, those are the things that people look for. And they want it applied to what it is that they have and what they envision purchasing it and what it's going to look like in their own environment. So
what are some don'ts? Don't do this. Don't do that. Please stop doing this.
Blurry photos for me, when I'm viewing product and I can't really see what it is, I move on to the next product.
Don't ever post a blurry photo.
Yeah, blurry photos just tell the person that's interested in buying that the person that's trying to sell me was in a rush. Maybe they're trying to unload it. I don't know. I mean, being a photographer and being visual, I want to see as much photos in detail. Like I said earlier, take me into the wreath. Give me the full dimension of it.
So
give me front and back.
Can you give us like an example of maybe, because I know Etsy has 10 blocks.
Yep.
So 10 photos that you can take. So from your perspective as a photographer, and you're trying to sell this product, what things would you be looking to take pictures of?
I would put it on the other door for one.
On the black.
On the black.
Okay, so do you want to flip it?
No, I'm just playing with it. So you definitely want the consumer to see all of what it is that you're trying to sell. And I would come in and do a tight shot. You also kind of want it level with what your product is, because what you may not know is perspective. So as you take a shot down on something, what it does is it creates the closest thing to the camera appears to be bigger than normal because it's closest to the lens. The thing that's down here that's not close to the lens, guess what happens to that? It shrinks down and it makes it look smaller, so it makes the product look oblong. So by staying level with the product, so one shot would be out here, another one would be in here. I may do a close-up of the sign because maybe that's a selling point. I may do a close-up of this flower. I may do a side shot of it because I want to see what's on this side. I may do where I'm holding the back of the wreath, but I'm still in by close to the door, showing how, what's on the back. How can I hang this on my door? Is it a hook? Is it an eyelet? Am I going to have to have 3 people help me, mount the thing. Oh, that's pretty easy. It shows, there's a few wires there. So those would be the photos that I would be doing. Quality of product, as you do a close-up shot of like a bow, that helps too. And you can also talk about it. I use nothing but the highest level of, product for my bows, and then my flowers are, hand-picked from the, latest, I don't know, Michaels or whatever.
Yeah.
Those flowery, excuse the pun, but, the more information that you can tell when it comes to the story of your product also makes me believe you really care about it. You're passionate about the description of it. My wonderful wreath, comes from the 7, waters of, Africa. And, like to have some of that detail in there definitely is like, wow, that sounds great. So those are just the little tricks, but they didn't really cost you anything other than time to sit and just not, take a picture and then post it. Okay, that's done. How come it's not selling?
Right.
Like
don't just put your product information. Tell a story about your product.
And here's something that Jennifer Allwood would add is like the candle in here.
Yeah.
So she said this, and I probably shared this with my private group. You're not going to go 18-ounce pure wax candle, white, in a jar, single wick. Nobody cares about product specifications. There's a reason for have their own separate boxes in Etsy. When it gets to the description, it's like, tell us a little bit about the scent of this candle. And I don't even know. It's kind of like it's citron and copoly, which I'm like, what the heck is that? I'd have to look it up to figure it out. It's kind of like a clean, fresh smell. So when you're smelling the candle, what does it remind you of? If it was like when we've done the tropical wreath, I've said, it reminds me of my vacation in Maui. Those are like priceless memories. Whether somebody got married in Hawaii, this would be a great way to like take them back to that fun time that has that visual image for them. So it's not about product specs. When you get to the description, it's about, tell us about the wreath. Tell me why I need this for my front door.
Right.
What does it do? How does it make you feel? How else can you use it if it has multi-purpose like the tulip wreath does? So not only are we doing it on the front door as a tulip wreath, if we can, it's a candle holder. You can put a cake plate on it. I need to see all those pictures because I need to visualize it. And it can't just be here on the kitchen counter with a candle in it. No, light that candle.
Yep.
Put it on a table. Set the table so that it creates that magnolia, the Joanna Gaines type of feeling. So that person's like, that looks amazing. Well, that would look great on my...
Right, and once again, by lighting that candle and then showing the multi-purpose, you've now taken a step out
Let's go ahead and bring it in the center so they can see it.
Oh, you have to take the bottom stand. There you go.
So by lighting the candle and showing the multi-purposes of this product, is that one more step farther than somebody that just took the photo of the wreath there and just went like that? So as we kind of started the little, a little sneak peek of, upcoming classes, is the person that only takes that single shot as opposed to the one that just fills up the boxes. Now, like Kathy said, there's a special place in there for specifications.
Yeah, how big, how wide, how deep.
And what I'm getting to on the product is, you may have sold me in 3 photos. Okay, because I see that there's other photos there. I may not even ever look at those other photos. I may go, I read the description, like I said, the 7 waters of Africa or, whatever.
Right.
And you sold me in the detail, and I looked at the first few photos and I'm like, okay, I gotta have it, buy now. And, I'm swiping. Just to have more there than what the average person is probably going to look at is not ever a bad thing, because it's that 1 or 2% that come there that want the 8, 9, 10 photos to be sold. You're losing that ability to sell them at that point because you only have the 3 photos in them. So you are moving product, but you could be moving more. You're just not being able to see that because those people want more photos or they want more of a description in order for you to sell them. You're the sales rep. You're trying to move that product. So that's my advice.
Why don't we start getting into some questions and answers?
Sure.
You can go ahead and start.
The first question is from Karen Bradshaw. She asked us a while ago. I bought a new iPhone 12 Pro Max solely to take better pictures because I heard it had the best camera. I can't tell any difference than my iPhone 7. It must be the settings you use.
So there are some settings in there, I'll let Kathy, either she can instruct or we can talk about having, because it's going to take a little bit of time to take people in step by step to the photos. I'd like, if you can elaborate on that a little bit. You said that you don't really notice any difference. What did you come out of and what did you go into? So that's what I would like to know. Did you come out of an iPhone 7 and go to a 12?
It says right here, on the iPhone 11 Pro Max, should you use, and then she says, I bought a new iPhone 12 Pro Max solely to take better pictures.
Okay, so and I have the 11 Pro Max, and I know about the 12 Pro Max. The only difference in the camera between the 11 and 12 is that the 12 gives you ability to take night pictures, like night selfies. It has an adjustment in it, and that's virtually about it. I think there's a little bit more pixels with just the standard camera, but I don't think it's going to be enough to jump from an 11 Max to a 12 Max. I think you would notice a significant difference if you came out of a 7 and went to a 12 or a 7 and 11. So.
Well, she said, I can't tell any difference than my iPhone 7. It must be in the settings you use.
No, there are some settings that, I'll have Kathy, will either do it because it's going to take a little bit to get you into that setting. Mm-hmm. There is some adjustments that make the saving. So iPhone and Apple is all about saving your hard drive space or your space for saving photos on your phone. So in default where it sets, it's all about maximizing the space and shifting everything up to the cloud. So I can, once me and Kathy have, one of the other classes, I can actually take you guys into the settings of not only your video on your iPhone, but also your camera. It will impact the memory that's in your phone because you will be taking bigger pictures, but I don't necessarily know if I'd have to see some of the photos that you're referencing to be able to make a really intelligent conclusion of what maybe the issue is.
But I think too, what you were saying is that sometimes what we see in our camera when we take the picture, the end result once we hit snap, it does not look like what we are physically seeing. Correct.
And I know Kathy wants to do some other modules and she wants to have some other classes. I will tell you and I'll give you some insight. So people always ask me all the time, like Kathy, how come when I take a picture it doesn't look like that? Okay, because cameras and even point and touch cameras are predicated on having so much time and certain variations of contrast levels and aperture settings that it has to go through a millimeter a second in order to capture that image, that it makes it the best it can within the confines of the program. Now, when I pull out my Canon and I go to manual mode, I can actually slow everything down, adjust all the apertures, adjust the shutter speed, and take the picture of what my eye is actually seeing as opposed to auto. Auto has milliseconds to balance everything, color balance, white balance, you name it, in milliseconds and capture that. That's why it doesn't look like what your eye is seeing.
So that was one of the things that we had talked about is why is it when you try to take that gorgeous sunset photo on your iPhone, it never looks like what you are physically looking at. I'm like, no matter what I do, whether I adjust it or play within the settings, I am such a far cry from that. And this is where he was like, it's because your phone's on auto mode. It's automatically adjusting things that it thinks that that photo is going to look just precise with. And so you're going to have to go into each of those individuals and manually adjust them.
And think about it like this. What you're basically buying when it comes to a point and shoot camera is you're giving the camera the driver's seat to make the best educated decision based on the program and capture it within so many seconds. And that's all its job is. It doesn't know that it should have kept the shutter open a little bit longer to allow more light or less light, faster shutter. That's where manual mode comes in. That's where you're in the driver's seat and you can adjust your camera accordingly. There's not, so let me just get this out there right now. There's not manual settings in your phone to be able to do these things that I'm telling you. Those are more professional grade camera. There are certain tips and tricks to be able to manipulate your point and shoot when it comes to your iPhones and your Androids, and then taking it into the program to be able to enhance certain things, but not too far off the beaten path.
But just that little simple thing that he had showed you where you can...
The contrast levels.
You're on the screen and you're just, clicking up and down and you're brightening or dimming certain values. That was a huge eye-opener for me because I was like, well, I thought it was just... I need to add more lighting or take more lighting away.
Another thing I want to bring up that we've talked about, I don't think you guys have hit it yet, is a lot of gals, when they're watching your video, they'll say, why does it look so dark? Maybe it's because the setting on your phone is on very low brightness. And all you need to do is swipe up and adjust the brightness up to 50%. And it crazily increases the quality.
And Steve brings up another point, and I was trying to hold back on this because it adds a whole level of dimension that you can only control what you can capture. And so real life scenario, Kathy's, centerpiece here, I take a picture of it, I'm seeing it with my eyes, and I'm getting the best shot that I can. So once I upload that and put that out, to the net and upload it to Facebook, Instagram, I can't control what somebody else's contrast levels, what somebody's brightness levels are on their computer. So that was a huge eye-opener for me as a photographer because I had my monitors when I was editing my images of my models, and in my room, everything looked awesome. And then I would post it out there and I'd be like, what's going on? Like, I'm not getting the comments on this image. People are saying it's too dark. What are they talking about? Well, I went into my contrast level on my monitor and it was at 100%. So what people will see with your image, and here's the rule of thumb. So like my phone, when I have it set, I generally keep my contrast level right at 50%.
So that's the little sun feature on your settings.
Yeah, the little sun. So, this is brightening my contrast, and I used to actually, view my phone like this, and I would see people's photos on Instagram, and I'm like, wow, that's a really bad photo, and, hey, mine looks great. But then I would come here and I would set it after I realized, like when I was editing, my contrast level was at 100% on my computer. And don't get discouraged, because all of us as producers of art and product, this is a common challenge that everybody has to deal with, is we can't control the people that have a contrast level like this.
Right.
And trust me, I had a photo class and I blew some people's minds because I had like 15 people there, and I said, okay, everybody has their iPhones or their Androids, okay? And they're like, yeah, we do. And I said, okay, hey, everybody show me what your contrast levels are. Every single person's was different. From like one person's was like, this guy might have bionic eyes. His was like completely black. And he goes, yeah, I could see everything. And one was like me, it was like up at 100. And there was a couple that were in 20 and 30. And then one was at 70. Everybody's contrast level of how they look at their phone was completely different.
So they're all seeing the same picture differently.
And so when you put it out on the internet and you're like here going, it's beautiful. You can't control how somebody's going to view that product on the other side. So what I've learned in all my years, you can please most of the people most of the time, but not all the people all the time. So,
I saw somebody, whoa, my contrast was like on 0.
Karen Bradshaw said, whoa, my contrast is like on 0. Yep.
Now she'll upgrade and she'll be like, God, the pictures look great now.
Yeah.
So
keep it at 50.
So for me, 50% gets you cast out your net and grabs the majority of the people. Because if they're a little bit below 50, it's going to look good. And if they're a little bit above 50, it's going to look good. Even I've tested my photos at 100% contrast level after editing at 50% level. They still actually look pretty good, so I'm kind of lucky there. I think where it starts to impact is when it's way down there at 0. Everything almost kind of looks dark to me. I mean, I have older eyes, so that's why I'm kind of playing up in the 50% margin. But yeah, so I know that is an eye-opener, but don't be discouraged. That's the next level of having to combat what people have set their settings at to view your product. It's just too much to consume right now. And where we need to be is, if you were $1 million company, what would you like your photos to look like?
Of course.
And I know everybody's going to say, well, I'd hire you to come down and take pictures of it and do all your fancy lighting and all that. And so that's awesome, but you do have the ability to play in those confines right now and pretend you're that $1 million company and try and take that photo as close to that. I don't know, I'd probably charge like $40,000 for a bunch of product stuff, being the rich company you are, and take photos really as best as you can.
Okay, go back to questions.
Yeah, let's go back to questions. So Barbara Rosecrans, which I think is in our private group, right?
I believe so.
She asked, can you show how it looks like on the bottom of the door to get it to stand up?
I will take pictures
of
that.
Yeah, we'll take some
and
pictures and we'll post them so you can see what it looks like.
Yep, and a lot of people ask that. Can you show us how your door stand looks? I will take pictures and post them.
But
and then
real quick, and I'd like to add to that is, so it's awesome if you can get a rolling thing like this, but you don't need it.
Right.
I mean, you could paint this in your garage and you could lean it up against your garage slightly tilted. From the photos perspective, I'm not going to know whether or not that's
leaning or not.
For the first year when we had the door as a prop, we just held it behind on chairs. It leaned up against the kitchen chair. That's all it was.
Yep.
Next great question is Cheryl's asked, can you kill the photo lighting for a second and let us see the difference between in this video for a moment?
Okay, so this is all lights
on.
Don't
look at us though. We're going to be like really scary.
So Steve's going to take them down one at a time. So this is the right light, the left light, and then...
That's really it. The rest are just kitchen overhead lights.
Right, so let's turn these two on and then I'll take the overhead lighting off. So can you turn these two back on?
Yep.
Now what you're also getting here is you're probably...
So you can see all the shadow.
Right, and what you're probably thinking is, well, that's not too bad. But what happens with cameras that are like these video cameras that are almost at point and shoot, it's going through subtle changes and adjusting as best as it can because it has a built-in contrast adjustment.
Wow,
so
I was like, go ahead, sorry.
So anyway, they have always said the best rule of thumb is if you can, stay in a controlled environment as much as you can. So if your controlled environment is a north-facing door, if Kathy's door here with these types of lights, this is one of her favorite shots in the kitchen, and rotate it. Try and do the best you can because you'll get into this whole spectrum of different color, different lights, different Kelvins, different saturations. If you're constantly changing the rooms around, because light, as it's an east and west window and it's natural light, and also adding false light, anything with a light bulb or this type of photography lighting, you just want the least amount of variables to play with when it comes to quality of photos, because you'll never know if you take it into the front room and put it on the back of the door, that's not the same lighting as the front of the door.
Okay, so we're on to, I think it's Karen Neal's question, right? What color should your background color be?
Yes.
So,
kind of like what we did here, the light versus the dark.
So the good thing too is I had art for a while, and they have a color wheel, and the color wheel will generally tell you the opposing colors with it. in order to make, pop. You can probably do a Google search on color wheels, and it'll tell you like the colors that are used here, the best opposing colors in order to get it to pop, which is the opposing side of the color wheel, would probably be on the back side here.
Right. So.
And Kat's talked a lot about the color wheel and.
In our color theory class, right? In our private group. So, in a nutshell, light wreath, dark door, dark wreath, light door to get it to look at its best. Yeah. And
the great thing is she's used primary colors here. So she's got a white door and a black door. I mean, that's pretty as basic as you get it. Yeah. To throw a red door in here would be pretty awesome, but you're also limited as far as...
I couldn't put that on a red door.
Right, you wouldn't be able to put it on a red door. It would clash. So by having your basic, colors, your primaries, yep.
So we know that as women, is if we're dressing, white goes with anything, and black is our other neutral, which, makes our lighter colors look better.
The next question is from Kathy. Is contrast the same as brightness?
Yes. The little sun on your phone. So I'm like, okay, so he calls it one thing. I'm like, oh, the brightness level on my phone? Yeah.
So, but I would say from the options that are available to you on your iPhone, that is not correct. That contrast and brightness are two different things.
They are.
Contrast so if you take a photo of the wreath and then in your iPhone, you'll see up in the upper right-hand corner, edit. And when you click on there, it gives you a whole host of options to play with, filters to add. When you go into the little graph where the adjustments are, you'll see brightness, contrast. Contrast will actually flatten out your shadows. If that's what you're asking in that program, it takes away the shadowing. It will flatten it out. Brightness will actually bring up the brightness of what it is that you're taking a photo of.
But I think in answer to Kathy's question, yes, it's the little sun, the little brightness level on our phones.
Yeah. Karen, yes, the umbrellas and the light stands and everything does fold down. In the private group, Kat actually has, I think we did a video, like a behind the scenes. Yeah, we did behind the scenes, but I think you also has on your Amazon affiliate list, right?
Yeah.
The SKU number and where to get them at.
Are you kidding? Everything's got to fold down. A girl does not have time for all this, like the stand here that, Mike was showing you, the huge ring light, which is awesome in itself because not only does it have a white light on it, so this is kind of like a diffusing type of a light, it also has orange, which you were saying adds warmth to something. Yeah. So if you were to take a photo of somebody like this with the brightness, it's going to make them kind of look washed out.
Yes.
And then if you put the orange lights on it and then increase the intensity or brightness, then it creates such a warmth, like they look healthy, they don't look so,
They just got back from Maui.
Right. So something like this, it has a built-in tripod for you. You can take it and you can adjust it to hold your phone so that you can have your phone in here, take your picture, and then just move your light around. Or like you were saying, the best types of lights to get are the ones that you can adjust or intensify the lighting, because then you look at it through your picture, through your phone, and decide what looks best to you that's more of a natural, true-to-life light. And it all folds down, and it fits in a little bag that goes in the closet, so that's functional.
I think that's pretty much it for all the questions.
Okay, awesome. So any last minute questions while I have...
There was the other one is I think Gail asked it, is there going to be a private group for photos, and like does Mike have a private group, or is there going to be some sort of private group on photos or photography?
I'll do whatever my sister asks.
We're working on that. So we're going to make it available to just to the public. But it'll be a paid class, but it won't be like, a normal photography class that he would charge. But we're going to look at, breaking it down and just digging down deep, like editing photos, taking your standard photo, and then Mike will walk you through like how you could edit this on your iPhone. How could you edit this particular picture on an Android? And we're going to get into things like saturation and contrast and brightness. I'm trying to think of what else there is.
Sharpness.
It's like, why the hell just give us all these options? It's too many options. How much should we adjust this or that? So we're working on it right now. We just kind of wanted to give you this overview little teaser, but we really wanted to help you to be able to take really great photos, because like we see on Etsy, if you search yellow and blue tulip wreath, you'll get 5-10 pages of yellow and blue tulip wreaths. So what you're trying to do is set yours apart from everybody else's yellow and tulip wreath, based just on your keywords and your photos, and hopefully get that sold. So
awesome.
Thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. I'll keep you up to date when we get it all put together. And then once you pay for the little mini course, then the course is yours. You can go back and reference it and watch it as many times as you want, take notes, do whatever. But
yeah, a lot of
I'm trying to get him to do a class of there's so many people who would do this. I'm right there. I'd be the first person signing up for a class. So thank you guys for taking the time and watching today.
Thank you.
A lot of guys said this was very informative. Thank you for showing. Can't wait. So awesome.
We didn't leave you on a cliffhanger though, ending. People were like, wow, what a teaser. It's like, yeah, but we didn't leave you on the season finale cliffhanger. And we're like, what's going to happen next? So if you guys have questions, I'm sure you can, I'll see if Mike will take, questions or whatever. You can email him if you have a specific question, because I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Have a great night, everybody. We'll talk to you on Friday at 5.
Have a good one.
Bye.